Greg is giving us some really great information about financial planning and particularly the impact of disability on a financial plan. So my question to you, because I get it a lot, is either I have a plan and I'm thinking about applying for disability, or I don't have a financial plan, but I'm going to potentially become disabled because of the progression of my medical condition. When should I consult with this financial planner? Now, later? What's the answer?
Well, and a similar question I get asked is, I ask clients is, when's the right time to be prudent?
Okay.
Next week or next year usually isn't the answer I get. The answer I get is right now is the right time to be prudent. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think it just seems crazy that somebody wouldn't want to bring that up, especially if they're really your resource and your advocate for your financial future. I mean, we say this to our clients all the time. We hope you call us on any concern that comes up. And when you do call, please don't say, sorry to bother you. And it's amazing how often they preface the call with sorry to bother you. And I always say, no, please don't apologize. We work for you. We are your advocate. We're here for you. We're taking a stand for your future. So please reach out to us about really anything that needs to come up.
So when they reach out to you in this circumstance, what kind of information do you want from them to create a clear financial path for them?
Yeah, well, one client comes to mind is that we had a client that was in a car accident. They're having major issues with their wrists, and they're in the dental profession. So we want to know is like, how much is he able to work? I mean, is he just gritting his teeth and like trying to grind out the week that, the work week to get to Friday or to Thursday so that he can have some relief from his hands? I mean, that's a significant issue. And if that's going on for years, that could have even a more compound effect on that injury. And a lot of times when people come in, and it is interesting to hear how long they have been fighting through some pain instead of just addressing this up front. It's almost like, well, I don't know if this is a big enough deal to qualify for a disability, because most people think of a disability as like I'm in a wheelchair and I'm totally incapacitated. Well, we like to say sick or injured as opposed to disability, because sick or injured is much more palpable and much more real life than being totally disabled.
So obviously you're interested in potentially their medical condition, the progression of the medical condition, the nature of their occupation, what perhaps, are they going to file a residual claim? Perhaps they want to do a total disability claim, the end of their practice. Are those the kind of things that you're taking into consideration, how that practice is going to end in doing this financial planning?
Yeah, absolutely, Nancy. And that you brought up really good points there. Is it a residual disability, meaning like I'm able to work part-time and, my income's gone down a little bit? Or is this a case where I'm really disabled and I just can't work at all? Another standpoint that we look at from a financial planning perspective, I want to go back to this again, is we view like our purpose at TenCap is to lift others to freedom and power. Now finances are an important part of that. However, it's not exclusive to finances. And if somebody's really in a state, there might be mental health issues, there might be other psychological issues at play. We really, we're not licensed psychologists or therapists by any means, but yet money is a thread that runs through the fabric of life. I mean, it's touching every aspect of their life. And so we really do need to get at a clear angle of how is their life being impacted by what's going on with their ability or lack of ability to produce income.
Well, as we know, dealing with professionals, their identity is their occupation.
Yeah.
Right. So to what extent, if any, as a financial planner, do you get involved if the professional needs to sell their practice or get into something that they're allowed to do it under the terms of the policy that lets them continue? In other words, the policy says, so long as you can't do your own occupation, you can do anything else and earn money. Tell me, what's a financial planner like you? What's the interaction with making the decision to close the practice, perhaps do something else? where does that fit in financially and psychologically?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that come to my mind. The first thing is that you'd want to do beforehand, before disability, because we think about disability income insurance, but we also want to look at disability overhead coverage.
Right.
And when we talk about overhead coverage, we mean like, okay, if I'm not able to produce income, if I'm a dentist or a doctor, and my practice is dependent on me being there to produce income, that's not just affecting my income, that's affecting other people's income. And that could affect the health of the practice. So having a disability overhead policy allows for me to have capital to keep running the business, even though I'm not still producing income. So maybe I can hire another doctor to come in, or I can hire an associate to come in and run the practice while I'm disabled. Well, a practice in that condition is in a way better state to be able to be sold, as opposed to just a fire sale, where we need to get this sold as quick as possible because the main valve going into this practice producing income is out of the picture. So from that standpoint, disability overhead insurance is very crucial aspect that's often overlooked in a financial plan. And then it allows for a sale to take place in a favorable environment and context, as opposed to like, hey, we're kind of drowning here. Can you throw us, a life preserver to keep us afloat with this practice by buying it?
Well, you brought up a good point, but how about like key person insurance, where the person becomes disabled and that allows the practice to continue? Can you speak to that and how it flows into a financial plan?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's another big That's another big aspect. A key person policy keeps the business running in the event of an important employee or operator running the business. And if that's not in place, it could easily affect the profitability of the company. And then the sale of the business is, it might be a metric of EBITDA or so many times of revenue. And if that key person isn't insured and there's not revenue to come in that could help supplement what that person was doing in the practice, it can have a major impact on what the business could go for in a purchase.
And potentially it can help buy out that person's interest in the practice, making their exit from the practice easier. Would you?
Yeah, so a key person, a buy-sell agreement would be essential, and not. We see a lot of times that people have buy-sell agreements in the contract, but they're not funded. So what I mean by that is whether it was someone passing on or whether it was someone becoming sick and injured in a disability, is the business going to bleed cash to be able to buy that person out? Where's the funding going to come from to be able to buy that person out such that the business can give them what they're due, but yet still stay afloat? And a disability policy funds that incredibly well. And then in an unfortunate event of a passing on of an owner, then there's immediately capital that's received by the company on a tax-free basis to be able to buy that person's spouse out of what's rightfully theirs. Great.
Fantastic points. And of course, that leads me to that other point and question about life insurance, particularly in the context of a business owner, a professional. To what extent does the life insurance play a role, not only in financial planning, but in the context of someone who is disabled? They obviously can't get insurance at that point. But in your financial planning, particularly with business owners, what are you talking to them about in terms of life insurance?
Well, from strictly from a protection standpoint, there's no amount of money that's going to replace the value that person brings to a company. But if we can just separate, the value that they bring to the company and then the economic impact, it's really, we call it the human life value calculation, which is that person is no longer going to work. So what's the amount of money that it would take to replace the amount of income that's going to the family or the business to replicate that person going to work? What's the amount of capital that's going to work and producing income from that capital to replace that person's income?
Wow, that's a fantastic point. Let's take a break because I got some more questions, but I'm going to give the audience a break here for a moment.